Get out of my bedroom and start walking around, maybe do some stuff outside. We're at the Central Business District in Yinzhou. My apartment is a few kilometers that way. And I thought I'd bring the microphone and the camera out, sit and chit-chat with you outside. I think there's a lot of people in this world that don't really understand China. I've lived in China for 10 years, and I'm American. I've lived in America for the rest of that period of time. Of course, there's been some travel around the world. When I moved to China 10 years ago, more than that now, 11 years ago, and the China of today, if you compare them, they're almost incomparable. In fact, this area behind me, the CBD, did not exist only a few years ago. Certainly didn't exist when I moved here. I would probably be sitting inside a field or a farm. But China has changed quite a bit, and I think a lot of people cannot appreciate that the China of the past is not the China of today. The insults hurled, the degradation, the accusations, they might have landed in the China of decades past, but they don't land today. Think of some of the arguments. China's infrastructure is falling apart. Well, that's got some truth to it. Many years ago, when I first moved here, China was building at breakneck speed. Building and building and building. Like I said, this area behind me didn't even exist. But there's a saying that if you do something 10,000 times, you become a master. That stands for anything: music, art, and architecture. You might build the first 100 buildings shoddy quality, but when you've finished your 10,000th, you are a pro. And China has been building hundreds and hundreds of thousands of buildings. So the insult you might have hurled about poor quality material, building haphazardly, those might have landed in the past, but they don't land today. China makes shitty products. Go there if you want the cheap stuff. Decade, 15 years ago, I'd agree with you. Today, I'd still agree with you. But they certainly make more than just the cheap stuff. And you know why they make the cheap stuff? It's because people negotiate the lowest price possible as cheap as possible. I don't think a lot of people realize that when the cheap stuff comes out of China, it's bought by people paying cheap prices in the West. So when you see that product at the checkout aisle of the Walmart, made in China, it was bought for the purpose of being a cheap thing at the checkout aisle of Walmart. If you go to the back of Walmart, you'll find there's probably more expensive products, higher quality, that were also made in China. But it's tough to parse those things when you've been bred to believe that everything in China is cheap. And there is no middle ground. I think the biggest problem we have is that we underestimate this country, and we have for a very long time. In America, I think in particular, I'm an American, everybody's so concerned with, everybody's sitting around yelling at each other, not figuring out, a decent educational program. Our teachers aren't paid enough. Our doctors aren't paid enough. We're all embroiled in all of this craziness. And China is just moving forward. People are walking by, looking at me, talking to the camera like a goofball. I think that if we understand each other, appreciate that we're different but similar, and take from each other what makes both of us stronger. China helped America incredibly. Helped businesses, helped consumers, helped the lower class, helped the middle class, and lined the pockets of an incredible amount of rich people in America. Conversely, China has benefited huge from the West buying and helping them to learn about how to make things and do things. And so it's been a pretty good symbiotic relationship. Maybe some things were in favor of one side or another, but I think it was fairly mutual. Does it need to stay the same the whole time? Do I think tariffs are useful? Do I think that economic policy is important? Of course, when used correctly and not used as a threat and not used as a crowbar, and when used symbiotically to make sure that the playing field is level, and when used sanely and not to reinforce some sort of hatred. So I think we need to take a step back, say what will even us up so that we both rise together, and